Good evening, Andy.
Good evening.
Welcome to Germany.
Always a pleasure to be here in Germany.
Yeah, let me thank you for coming here today. To be ready for an interview.
Okay.
You will start the European Tour 2012 tomorrow, playing in Verviers, Belgium, that's right. And on time, Wishbone Ash released a new album called Elegant Stealth. What is special about that?
What is special about Elegant Stealth? Well, it fits with the times. It's a kind of Wishbone Ash is a band that has been around for a long time. And the so-called rock establishment might not always be aware of that, but we do tour a lot. We do about 150 shows around the world. So the title came from the idea that we're kind of under the radar at this point in our careers, but we do it very elegantly. That's what we hope. And what's special about the music is that we've been preparing it for about 2 years. And we started out by making a rockumentary of the writing of the album. So this has been a 2-year process. Technically, we recorded it at a new studio that we have in England. And we used incredible equipment, Neve equipment. So the sound quality is the best that you can get, I think. But we also worked on the album up in Helsinki and also in Connecticut. So there was a lot of input in different countries. So this has been a 2-year project that's gradually come together, and it's just been released. So that's what's special about it in my mind.
Okay.
It also, I mean, the feeling of the music is that such that it's has a definite link back to the 70s in terms of our influences. It's very simply done, complicated arrangements, but with this sort of vintage feel about it.
Yeah.
So, but in a very modern context.
Yeah. Step back in time. Tell me how many albums the band has been releasing throughout its entire history, and what is the most influential, in your opinion?
Impossible for me to give you an accurate number of the albums because we've produced a lot. It's probably in studio albums close to 30, I would think. But there have been many compilations and live albums. So it's difficult to get a fixed number. But probably every couple of years, there's been an album released. But obviously, a band like us, the biggest impact would have been in the 70s. And I think that goes for a lot of bands that came up in the 70s because the music was so influential. You know, had this big new generation, post-war generation, which was dictating how we would all think culturally and what we would listen to. And so people always refer back to the 70s with a band like Wishbone Ash. So, you know, I mean, obviously Argus was probably our jewel in the crown.
And live dates?
Well, live dates, we were always known for our live playing, and Live Dates, strangely enough, was the biggest selling album, even bigger than Argus.
Mm-hmm. On stage, you regularly play the old songs, like The King Will Come, The Warrior, Throw Down the Sword, very famous songs, still with much enthusiasm and sentiment.
I like to say passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do these titles from the 70s still have an impact on the audience? What do you think?
Well, partially because they were from the 70s and they remind people of their youth. I mean, a lot of people that are now old chaps, older guys, older ladies, they can remember perhaps maybe listening to this music when they were at college or university. It formed the backdrop to their lives. And I think that's the great thing about music. When you can relate it to your youth, it has a great sentimentality about it. But also the lyrical subjects are quite deep. They're thought-provoking, and there's a timelessness about those kind of songs. They're rooted in a kind of an Englishness, English folk kind of tradition in a way. Mm-hmm. So they have that about them.
Mm-hmm. With religious elements.
Yes. Yeah.
Who was responsible for that in the band? You?
Well, I would say that the texture, the timbre of the music was probably myself, but the lyrics, a lot of the lyrics from the Argus were written by Martin Turner. Mm-hmm. So that was, we were all reading a lot of that. I mean, you can imagine in your early 20s, you were just soaking up influences from all kinds of classical literature.
Yeah. In the early days, Wishbone Ash was regarded by the fans and media alike as progressive rock band. After 42 years, Wishbone Ash, do you still have a musical vision?
Yeah, well, I think we do. I mean, the great thing about Wishbone Ash was that we developed and acquired our own sound right from the beginning of the band, which is really important to longevity. We had this twin lead guitar classic sound that we developed, and I think that when we realized that we had hit upon a sound that was unique to us, all we had to do was to really write for it. And my mission really, even today, is to keep that passion alive. And I don't want it to be contrived. I mean, it really is. I do get very excited when we go into the studio and record. I get excited when we go on stage and we play. And for me, the passion is totally essential. You know, it's got to be there. Otherwise, you shouldn't do it. If that feeling is not there, you say it's like making love. You know, it's you really should. The audience needs to feel that. You need to feel that, and we keep that to the foremost.
Many people think and say that Andy Powell is one of the most important rock guitar players of all time, with a lot of influence on style and sound of many other guitar players. Personally, I would like to know who did influence you most.
Well, I use this word passion a lot. You know, I think that the thing that tweaked my ear when I was a young lad was any kind of music that seemed to have this emotion about it. And the guitar, for me, was this incredible substitute to the voice. And I always liked singers, but I think that I enjoyed playing guitar because it was a way to express your feelings, you know, the blues and this way of bending the strings. But one of the first guitar players that ever influenced me was Django Reinhardt, you know, the gypsy guitarist, the jazz guitar player. Because I heard in that the way that he would just play these fiery runs, this incredible gypsy.
It's only two fingers.
Yeah, with two fingers. Yeah. He burnt, the other two were burnt in a fire. So you know, that was he was one of the first guys. My father turned me on to him, and then guitar just became very popular in the 60s. We had probably some of the greatest guitar players from Britain, certainly. Clapton, Beck, Peter Green was a great influence. I saw his first show and remember running up on stage and pulling him back on for an encore. I think I was about 15, 16. And he was always a guitar player that embodied the blues for me, and passion and soul. And so that's what I try to get in my music, you know. It doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be as technically clever as Django's playing, but it has to have that soul.
You mentioned Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton. Did you meet one of them in person?
I met both of them, actually, yeah.
And what did they say?
Well, we mostly talk about guitars or producers, technical things, finally. I mean, I remember with Jeff Beck, he showed me his guitars, and I was remarking on how they were set up, and we were talking about pickups and strings and all of these kind of things that guitar players talk about and bore everybody else with. Yeah.
Looking at the current band structure, Wishbone Ash, in my opinion, can be regarded as a 3-generation band.
Interesting.
What is unique about this specific composition?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think it always helps in a band if your drummer, who is probably the most physical, he's got the most physical job, is a youthful guy. And we have a young drummer who's been with the band for, I don't know now, 3-4 years, Joe CRABTREE. So yes, you're right, he's 30, and then the bass player and my co-guitar player are, say, in their early 50s. So, and I'm further on than that even. So yeah, in a way it's 3-generational. And I think that the music and the people that come to the shows are multi-generational as well. So this kind of music is timeless, really. I mean, it's our audience is not exactly the deadheads, but we have a lot of family elements too. I mean, we have a lot of fathers that play music to their daughters or their sons. Our music, and you wouldn't believe the number of daughters or sons that will say, "Oh, I bought my father a ticket for your concert," because he remembers it from his youth, and we've always played the music in the family, and that's really a wonderful thing. I've had also some of those songs that you mentioned earlier, we've endured wars in our generation. We haven't fought in them, but you have fathers where their sons or daughters went off to, say, Vietnam or Iraq, and they had a little copy of one or two of our songs with them, and that brings a whole new special meaning to a song like Warrior, for example, or Throw Down the Sword, a song about peace. So those songs, they are multi-generational, so I think it's fitting that the band members are multi-generational, you could say. Good question, yeah.
Even the audience, 3-generation audience, 4-generation
Absolutely.
audience.
It can be anything from, say, a 16-year-old up to a 65-year-old. I mean, in our crowd. That's
My daughter, personally, as you know, is following you since she was 2 years old.
That's amazing. She probably didn't have much choice.
What are your plans for your upcoming future? Private plans?
Well,
plans
they're private. Upcoming future, always the road. You mentioned Live Dates, the album, earlier. Everybody that follows us, they know that we are a live band. They know that the live shows will be things that are sparking. There'll be different versions of songs played. So the road and playing live is very, very important to us. That's how we get our mojo. That's how we create. And we just started a series, actually, of live albums, because you can record very quickly and efficiently now with the new digital technology. So we're releasing a series called Roadworks, and we like to try and do these. We'd like to be able to do them every 2 or 3 months, so people can have almost a diary of the songs that we're playing live and the shows. So that's going to be ongoing on this tour. We're going to be doing some video recording in Europe. We'll be working on some new material in the summer, obviously. That's always ongoing. And just basically keeping that passion alive in ourselves,
Wishbone Ash is alive.
It is, indeed.
Thank you very much, Andy.
My pleasure. Thank you.